Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Saturday seminar in Douglas County. One, the address was listed incorrectly on the Facebook
My fault.
event. I'm so sorry. And so a few more people might be filtering in from the Lawrence Art Center, where we love to have our Saturday seminars. But one, their children's theater is completely lit. I mean, they just have so many programs going on in the summer. It's amazing. Two, Lawrence Art Center's air conditioner is out. They just had to move all their production stuff to Free State, to high school. So a little bit of crisis over there. And so we really hope that they get their air conditioning fixed soon. I went to go vote yesterday with my family, and while I did it, I did make a TikTok and I shared it. It took me less than 4 minutes to get in there, check in, get my ballot, fill it all out, and turn it in. And my poll worker saw me making the video, and she asked me to please do advertise the good air conditioning here. And she's right, it is nice in our elections office. Again, it's not at the courthouse, it's at the elections office, 711 West 23rd. We're at the intersection of 23rd and Louisiana Streets. I'm very worried about the amendment. I'll be doing some door knocking Sunday afternoon in a neighborhood that doesn't seem to have a single political sign up anywhere. There are just people that are busy, they're working, they're taking care of their families, they're trying to pay their water bill, they're worried about their electric bill, and they are not keeping tuned in. If you're in this room, you are probably top 10% of the most politically engaged and active people in Douglas County, right? And they all need your help. And so if you can join the Douglas County Democrats in the next 2.5 weeks doing canvassing, we're going to keep doing postcards until next Friday. After that, it's really too late to mail to ensure that it gets there by August 4th. And we have phone banking, and our phone banking has actually been going really, really well. People are picking up. William got called, right? You got phone banked. I got phone banked by a group out of Salina the other night. My friend David Norland, David and Janice up there. David called me. We are reaching each other on the phones. We've been able to really increase our percentage of the number of voters that are canvassed. Canvassed means that we did talk to them. Even if they said, oh, I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to vote, we can still say they declined. We did get to talk to them. We have, I think, really great staff right now. We don't usually have paid staff, right? We haven't since 2022, but we raised the money. We have them in the office 7 days a week. We have office volunteers in there 7 days a week. We have most every sign you could think of. If a candidate has them, we try to keep them in stock. We've been able to stay in contact with different groups and get people to replenish their signs. We have our own t-shirts. There's some other t-shirts in the office as well. Come check those out. We have buttons. Those are really fun. Today I wore my Gina Repass button and my precinct leader button. Gina Repass, the chair of the state party, came and helped us kick off our canvas this morning in our office. That was just wonderful to hear from her, and she is such a great cheerleader. Because it's go time, right? From now until August 4th. Don't forget that as soon as you go vote early, any responsible campaign will take you off the contact list. So if you don't want us to call you and you don't want us to text you, go ahead and go vote early in person and we will stop bothering you. But we might ask you to come volunteer instead. Does anybody have any questions about voting? That is the most important thing we do, right? Is we get Democrats elected and we stop bad things like constitutional amendments that want to take away our rights. Everybody feels good? MJ?
I have a question, and you may or may not know the answer. I can't remember whether I asked for a ballot by mail, which I probably did, because I usually do, because I'm on Twitter, but is there a way for you to check and find out?
Yes, there is. I'm so glad you asked that. So on the Secretary of State's website, under My Vote View, you can type in your name and birthday, and you might as well, because it's the government, they know who you are, and your birthday anyways. And then if you type that in, it'll show you a sample ballot, it'll show you your voting history, and it will tell you if there is a request on record or not for a mail-in ballot for the upcoming election. tell you. I did get to talk to Jamie Shue, our wonderful election clerk, county clerk who does our elections. We are one of the big 5 counties, but we're still small enough that we don't have an election commissioner. We have our elected county clerk run our elections and all the other duties that clerks do. He said that usually we have 5,000 to 6,000 requests for mail-in ballots in a midterm year, and we're at 2,000, only 2,000. And he said, Melinda, I don't know if that means are people not coming, or are people gonna vote early in person or vote on election day because they're concerned about the mail, and they should be. If you did request a mail-in ballot, they legally cannot mail it until the day early voting starts, which was July 15th. And if it takes 10 days, you may not get it, till the next Friday, and now you have 8 days or less to mail it back. It's not gonna work. Mail takes 10 to 11 days. And so you will need to use a drop box, right? Directly to the elections office, or any poll location in your county on election day. So if you call your sister and her mail-in ballot is sitting on the dash of her car on election day, she can take it to any poll location within the county and turn it in, as long as it's in the envelope and signed properly, right? Sandy?
Another question, so if you request your mail-in ballot and you're not getting it, can you then go vote early in person and everything's
Yes.
cool?
Yes, you will vote provisionally, but then by election night at 5 p.m., or if the law changes, we'll find out. There's legal challenges about mail-in ballots, postmark, etc. But at the end of the day, whenever the mail-in ballot deadline is, if your mail ballot never came, they said, oh, Sandy never turned in her mail-in ballot, but she did vote provisionally in person, it'll count. Right?
Let's take one or the other.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Not both.
Right, well,
But you absolutely can. If you don't get your ballot in the mail in a timely manner and you're worried about it, just go vote. They will count it. Good question. All right, well, that sounds great. Everybody understands? We understand the assignment, right? We're gonna go vote, okay. We have 2 really great things. Really quickly, today we are gonna talk about a local issue that is going on regarding our local government that may or may not impact our ballots later in the year. And then after that, I will be so excited to introduce our special speaker running for US Senate today. In the meantime, Bobble Roger Marshall is up here. Just rattling his pretty little fake teeth. All the way from Florida. Because we are so tired of that man. Courtney Shipley, why don't you come up here and tell us what is going on in the city stuff?
So you know how our democracy is under threat at the national level, of course, and we've seen some interesting things happening as well at the state level. We're seeing obviously the Vote No campaign to change our Supreme Court. Well, they're using the same playbook to manipulate your local government. And so the suggestion is to move to a directly elected mayor. And that sounds very democratic. But when you dig under the surface, you'll see that this is just a way to manipulate your local government with big money and special interests. And we don't have that now. And we should be really glad that we don't. So this is being pushed by the Lawrence Chamber of Commerce. They are saying that it's not their idea, it's someone else's idea, and they're being a little cagey about who that is. That's a red flag right there. They managed to get this on the agenda for Tuesday, so if you do not think our form of government should change, please email and write your city commissioners, ask for your letter to be put on the agenda packet so that the public can see your correspondence. They like to make sometimes this silent majority kind of argument, and I want them to see your pushback on this. What happens now is basically your mayor is chosen, frankly, by ranked choice voting. He is democratically elected. We've been talking in groups like this about ranked choice voting for years, and Lawrence, in a sense, has already been doing this. The mayor is chosen out of the 3 that get elected. The one who gets the most votes gets to be mayor, and then the next year, the next person who got the most votes, and then so on down the line until the cycle starts back over again. And there are some advantages to having a mayor only once, one mayor a year and then cycling through. One of them is we don't get the kind of interference from big money that we do for people who are there for 4 years. They don't have that kind of financial influence in your politics. We should be glad about that. They also, it staves off corruption. There's corruption if you have a 4-year mayor, and we've seen this. You know, someone was saying the other day, well, we should have a mayor. I saw a town that was so beautiful. They had a mayor for 30 years. And I said, well, you should never want a mayor for 30 years. That's the opposite of what we should want. You look at New York or Chicago, and when those guys finally die, we find out it was rife with corruption. Lawrence doesn't have that. You can be mayor for 1 year, there's very little you can accomplish. And the next person who comes in will figure it out right away. I would also make the case that if you're the mayor for only 1 year, if you did try to pull something, like we did once have a corrupt mayor, you guys might remember.
Jeremy Farmer.
I'll let you say it. Staff is more willing to come forward because that doesn't threaten their job eternally. They might be a little nervous for a year, but they know the next year, someone else is gonna come in and realize what was happening. And I think that's really valuable. There's a couple other pieces too people don't think about a rotating mayor. Right now, Brad Finkeldine, a Republican, is mayor. If next year he decides to run, he will not be mayor while he's campaigning. So number one, he's not spending energy he should be spending on you campaigning. But more importantly, he's not using your staff and your city agenda to get himself reelected. You can't. The agenda is set by the commissioners right in front of you. He doesn't set the agenda. And that's what a lot of these proponents of directly elected mayor want to get back to. A time when they can buy what goes on the agenda or what doesn't. That is influenced by big money. And another red flag we should see when this is being pushed by the chamber, they said, well, we can't push it, but we'll start a PAC. That's big money right there, right? We're gonna start a PAC, and we're gonna hire Paul Davis, a professional lobbyist, to get this done. That's another red flag. That's big money, and that's a lot of energy. And a lot of people are asking themselves, as they should, what is behind this? Why is this so necessary right now? And the answer appears to be coming back, data centers. Somebody somewhere knows we need some big developments, or they might want to get data centers in here, and they don't want to have to make friends with Amber Sellers and Brad Finkeldine and Mike Dever and Mike Courtney and Kristen Pullian. It's too much trouble. And they know that Lawrence has a brutal public comment system that stops things like this in its tracks. So what they see is a fast track to just purchasing the answer that they want. And I just want to, anybody want to ever talk to me about this, there's much more I could say, I don't want to go on too much longer. This is just about changing your local government to benefit moneyed interests, special interests that do not care about our community priorities, they only care about their priorities. So please write to your city commissioners. It's for Tuesday, so please write before noon and tell them, stop wasting time talking about our form of government and get to work on the things that we care about.
Courtney,
Yeah.
isn't there one email that you can use that'll go to all 5, or what's the fastest way to do it by noon is what I'm saying. Even if you write one sentence.
So now I'm not gonna don't remember off the top of my head.
ccAgendas@lawrencekansas.org.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you very much. And
Noon on Tuesday.
Huh?
Noon on Tuesday.
Noon on
Not
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Oh,
noon on Tuesday. Yeah.
I was like, Courtney, that's a very short.
No, noon on Tuesday. Sorry, everyone. Yes.
ccAgendas@lawrenceks.org.
And be sure to put on there, this is for this week's agenda, this is the topic. So thank you all, I'll take less time because I want to hear our speaker today.
Thank you for the heads up. I don't want anything else on our November ballot. These ballots are already really long, we got a lot going on. Why would you try to put a ballot question on when there's already something on there that we're gonna tell everybody to vote no on, right? Like, what are we even thinking? I am so excited that we had so many cool people run for office this year in Kansas. We have some amazing women running for office across the state for multiple offices. But here in Douglas County, we have been, we had our Party Blue. We encouraged and invited every candidate to please donate to us a blue county. There are 2 blue counties in the whole state out of 105. We are one of them. And if you're in a primary, you probably need to come by and say hello, right? And we only had 2 U.S. Senate candidates ever respond. And we got a donation, a silver sponsor level, from Christy Davis and also Sandy Spidel Neumann. And so in case anyone wonders about compliance questions, or are we spending money on federal candidates? No. Sandy and her team were generous enough to donate money to our county party so that we can put on programming. And so that is why I'm so excited to introduce today for U.S. Senate against Roger Marshall, Sandy Spidel Neumann.
So thrilled to be here. Thanks for coming out on an early morning on a Saturday and a beautiful day. I love to support county parties, especially blue ones, but all of them. This is a democracy. That's what you need to do. Just a little background on me, and then I'll kind of give you why that's important, and then go through how I think our approach should be to righting the wrongs, if you will, and moving forward. Because as Melinda had said, there's a few candidates out there, right? And we are aligned on a lot of the issues, as you would expect, since we're Democrats. However, our approach to fixing things and to moving forward differ quite a bit, okay? So, and by all means, I'm gonna try to keep everything pretty brief. Would love questions. That's where I actually enjoy this. I spent 40 plus years in corporate America. I was born in Topeka, grew up in Overland Park, went to Shawnee Mission North, 40 years after my dad went there when it was Shawnee Mission Rural. I did just about everything there, including meeting Gary Blumenthal, who was our department chair of social sciences at the time. Never had him as a government teacher. I was in honors government, but some of you may know Gary. Adorable, dear friend still. I debated, I ran track, I played volleyball, of course. I did Girls State and was honored to represent Kansas at Girls Nation back in the day, where I had the fortune that the American Legion Auxiliary that year was chaired by a woman from Kansas. So we got to lay a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, the Kansas Girls Nation girls. That was, dear Lord, 50 years ago maybe? I don't know, a while ago. But I still remember how honored I was to do that. But anyway, I got a scholarship to study economics at the University of Chicago, and then did my MBA at Northwestern while I worked full time. So why is that stuff important? It gives you a little grounding on who I am and how I run. I run full speed all the time, right? After I got my MBA, I went to a .com because it was the year 2000. Everybody went to a .com. Guess what happened in 2002? Oh, I was laid off. Yep, bye-bye. Like everybody. And getting jobs in 2002 were a little tough. I did engineer an interview with H&R Block. I was trying to move back home. Mom and dad were 80. My mom and dad adopted. They were born in 22, greatest generation, right? Birth parents, let's do adopted first. Mom was Strawberry Hill, Croatian, first gen, right? And dad's parents and cousins actually homesteaded in Kansas and farmed in Burlingame. And then on my birth side, mom was from down in Oxford, down by Wichita, and dad was from Emporia. Just to give you a little context of where I'm coming from. So unfortunately, engineering the interview with H&R Block didn't go anywhere because even though one interview turned into 8 on a given day, they had a hiring freeze placed that next morning. I got hired by American Express and relocated to Minnesota to work for their financial advisor division. That was spun off in 2005, the 6th largest spin-off in history, that I led the marketing and communications to the field and the events at the stock exchange when we went public. I was with them for 22 years. They became Ameriprise Financial, which is a Fortune 250 company. I led a couple divisions for them, and why is that important? I was given a budget, I was given problems to solve, to go in and deliver numbers that were reported quarterly to Wall Street. You either hit your numbers or you didn't. And in a Fortune 250, if you don't hit your numbers, guess what happens? They take money away from you. They take resources away from you. I constantly got reinvestment because I had positive return on investment, or ROI. When I pivoted out, the reason why I ran, I thought I was going to join the Harris administration. I was very hopeful that that was was gonna happen. And when then she lost, I was like, I had turned 60, I'm like, what have I done with my life? How have I contributed to society? What can I do more to make things better? And I said, okay, I'm gonna have to go do something. I'm either gonna work for the DFCC, DCCC, they definitely need help messaging. They don't know how to ladder up a message to save their soul. But then I saw, of course, that town hall, right? And saw him, and he walked down on people that reminded me of my cousins, who no doubt voted for him. I grew up in a Republican household, most of you did. I mean, in Kansas, it's hard not to, right? A lot of my family's still Republican. We agree to disagree on some things. Some of them may even vote for me. I'm not sure yet. No, a few of them are. I'm convinced a few. The MAGA ones, definitely not. But, you see that, and I'm like, oh, honey, oh, hell to the no. You work for us. And so I hopped into the race in October and I've never run as an adult, right? I was in student government, and Lord knows, and did all kinds of things. I've worked on campaigns. I went to Philly to door knock for Kamala, right? Because, you gotta do what you gotta do. But anyway, so through this process, so now you've got an understanding of who I am and how I'm driven. I typically, like I say, I was charged with, here's a new problem, go in and fix it. Here's something, how would you do this? What you did in corporate America, you looked at everyone around the room and said, okay, I'm bringing in subject matter experts across the company to address the problem. You don't ask who they voted for. Typically, it's usually a pretty Republican environment, financial services, but you get everyone to subordinate some of their goals, to donate some of their resources, and look at the issue and work together to solve it. That's what I bring. To be able to manage and lead people. One other thing around being at a Fortune 250, you every year are subjected to an employee satisfaction survey. And that sounds like really fluffy and good, right? Not so much. It's quantitative and qualitative, and you have a leadership effectiveness rating that goes across everything. So you above leaders rate you, peers rate you, and people that work for you rate you. I have one of the highest leadership effectiveness ratings in the company, and that is important because I can drive results. They were going to promote me and give me more responsibility, likely within the AI realm, because I always am able to see the possible and see use cases of technology and know how to put arms around it. My company adopted a certain technology platform that I brought into the firm for my division that now everything operates on. Okay, so what do we need to do now in terms of what we're doing? Okay, my approach, 3-pronged. Has to be parallel process. That's how I operated, and that's how I was able to get so much done on a corporate level. You have to do things in tandem. What's happening right now? They're flooding the zone every day. 10 new things come in. Heinous things. They're hoping we'll only be able to undo 6 or 7, maybe 8. And if we undo 8, guess what? They're still up by 2. I'm not good with that. So it's parallel process. We need to undo the harm, right? So obviously everything virtually in the B triple bullshit bill that he was behind the president nodding his head. That's why I made those custom bobblehead, right? Because he's back there doing this when we need him to stand up and fight for Kansas. So we need to, and I look at it across 5 key priorities: healthcare, education, agriculture, veterans, and the economy, right? And the economy really permeates everything as you look through it. And then we'll talk about eliminating the grift. But when we look through undoing the harm, we obviously need to restore the ACA premium tax credits, right? We need to restore Medicaid funding. We need to restore SNAP funding. Why do you take food away from our most vulnerable populations? That makes no sense whatsoever. Education, we need to restore it at the cabinet level. We need to restore special ed funding. I mean, everyone has people within their family. I have many family members who benefited from special ed, including a nephew who was nonverbal until 4. They finally mainstreamed him in junior high. Now he has a degree in cybersecurity, which my heart, we need to invest in our people, right? Around the veterans, we know so much of some of the veteran funding. We're not keeping our promises to them. They shouldn't have to wait months to get into the VA, and the VA shouldn't be something from 1952. It should be the best in class medicine available anywhere. And you can, and everyone's saying, okay, so how are you gonna fund that? I'll get there on the next slide, right? Next slide in my head. Agriculture, we've got all these tariffs, and it's one thing, tariffs can be a viable economic policy, but not when they're used as extortion mechanisms against different countries, right? And also, they were used as market manipulation tools so they could trade in front of it. We need to obviously try to reopen the Chinese markets. That's gonna be an uphill battle, right? We know the Chinese are tough competitors, but we need to get the tariffs off so that the farmers have a level playing field. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And then the economy, and I'm gonna go through some of on the plan. So one of the things we need to do, we're talking about undoing some heinous things, but we need to chart a path forward at the same time. We wouldn't be in this situation, Trump would never have been elected, if we actually were doing well in some of the things that were going on. So we need to in terms of charting the path forward, we've got 15 years worth of ACA data now. Why don't we look at that and see what's working, what's not working, as we work toward Medicare for all? That has to be, a solution like that has to be. But, you know, people that say the words on day one, I just want to smack silly. Nothing happens like that. You need to be able to actually do it smart. And what they do right now, I mean, I don't even know if they have the capacity to understand what downstream impacts are, but they don't give a rip. They're not trying to actually govern, they're trying to actually manipulate the markets and make money off of everybody, right? So on healthcare, we do that. Like I say, we restore the premiums, tax credits, we go forward with that, we get the data, we fix the things that are not working as we work toward that. On education, we do need to be able to help kids pay off their loans. I mean, I had some loans which I did pay off, but I was able to. I mean, we need to be able to do that because if we don't, guess what? They're not going to be able to buy a house. I mean, everything connects to each other. And from an economics perspective, housing, childcare, the things that really matter to everyday human beings, obviously food, which the tariffs also have been doing. We've got to stop unauthorized wars, right? Again, that was another market manipulation and kind of a big guy swinging a little stick. Trying to just be better at what he's doing. That's what I did there, yeah. But it is that kind of thing where, one, we shouldn't be in the war. Congress has to step up and actually do its job, right? And that's just, you've got to hold these people accountable across that. And that will impact, if we're out of the war, that should, theoretically, gas prices they always say, they go, up like a rocket, down like a feather. I don't know if you've heard some of the economics terms, but yeah, that's what we need to do. We just need to blow on that feather a little and get those to come back down a little faster than what they are, right? And then by doing that too, the input costs for farmers will go down, because obviously with what's going on over there, fertilizer costs and other things are really astronomical, which we need to address. On an agriculture perspective, of course, we need to pass this farm bill, and it's taken this long, which is, I don't understand it. It should not be a political issue. It should be bipartisan. We feed the world. We feed the country. We need the farmers supported. On the veterans, just a couple more things, and then I'll go to Griff and wrap and take questions. So on the veterans, besides the VA, we also have a very large homeless population among veterans, and it should not be. In Kansas City, they started a charity called the VCP, the Veterans Community Project. If you haven't heard of it, take a look at it. It's awesome. What they do is they build these little communities of tiny homes. So a veteran, doesn't matter what branch, how you got in or out of it, as long as you've served the country, you can apply. You can get access to one of these tiny homes and a package of like 50 plus household items that are brand new that you get to take with you when you graduate out of the program. And you can bring your pet. This is near and dear to my heart. Many veterans, their pet is their only family that they currently have. And it's just so important, not just from a humanity perspective, but from a mental health perspective, right? And in these communities, they have commissaries where they can get food, they have medical help, they have dental help that they can get served right in, and mental health facilities. And these programs have an 82% graduation rate where people leave these programs and move into permanent housing somewhere. That is incredible. As someone who's managed programs, you don't get 82% of anything. So, I mean, that's just outstanding. What they started in Kansas City is now spreading across the country. I believe there's one in Wichita. Jason Kander, who used to be Secretary of State over in Missouri and ran for the Senate over there, is involved with the charity as well, spreading it nationwide, and national expansion, I should say. Okay, now, in terms of the grift, I'm just gonna hit a couple things because it burns my heart and soul when I see what's going on. I spent a career in financial services. I'm Series 7 and 24 licensed, and what that means, FINRA license, means I can trade and I can supervise people that trade and supervise communications in the field, which is primarily what I did. But when you see what's going on, they are not just insider trading. I mean, that's like kids' land to them. They were manipulating the market in front of the insider trading through the tariffs, through, I don't even know if you heard this, like 2 days ago, it just came out that he wants to sell early access to his things on his communications on Truth Social so people know what's going to happen, but not to us, not to regular people, to institutional traders.
Oh.
To give them a few seconds head start on manipulating the market. All this stuff is wrong. I mean, it's so wrong. And then you see the $2.2 billion that he made. Crypto is just a sham. And how he noticed the people, he and his, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, you know something is wrong if they're making money. I don't even know how they're making money. I mean, come on now. But, it's that kind of thing where we need to just attack it for what it is, and we have to hold them accountable. I think what his teleprompter guy that made $100,000, you're gonna put him on trial? What about the rest of these guys, right? We need to, the pay to play for the pardons. We've got to stop that. We've got to be able to put some things. Obviously, we need to get dark money out of elections. I think federal elections should be federally funded. Having come into this, when I announced that, or was considering running, the question I got, can you raise $30 million? I'm like, I don't know, I've never tried. The answer is no, I cannot. However, you shouldn't have to. I mean, what the problem is now, and you guys are all politically astute. The pastor comes in and raises 3.5, right? Because he has a nationwide constituency of Methodist people, and somebody put their foot on the scale, and he was on Morning Joe within 24 hours of launch. Okay, so somebody wants him in power, right? Another old rich white guy. I don't know if he could manage something to save his soul. To be fair, yes. Has he started a church? Yes, but that's an executive. That's not working in a legislative. That's not working together to get stuff done. That's not driving and fighting for change. So I think we're in this situation, and a lot of next gen has given up because they don't see hope in what's going on, because everybody it's always somebody who knows somebody who's going in to get this stuff done. We need people that can actually fight and hold. I've spoken truth to power so long. I mean, it's like, it used to be, tell Spidel not to even come up here. Legal would say. I'm like, well, dude, you do your job, I'll do mine. I'm at your door. We're gonna talk about this until it's a win-win. Because guess what? I've got to sell something, and you've got to make sure that I'm not doing it inappropriately. I'll keep one foot on the line. I'm Series 7 and 24 license. I don't want to, lose that, for crying out loud. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap on that, but know that it's a three-pronged approach. You do it simultaneously. You have to have people that can keep multiple balls in the air and keep driving consistently forward. And that's what I bring to the table. And that's why I'm staying in the race. I mean, I'm a realist. You can see what's going to happen to a certain extent with the election, right? But I'm also the only candidate so far who said, no matter who wins the primary, I will fight like hell to send Bobble Raj back to Florida where he belongs.
First, would you introduce your campaign team to everybody? Because you really have a good staff.
I do.
And some of them are even young. You mentioned next gen. So I just want to introduce everybody.
I'm going to introduce Justin Cohen, who leads my on-ground campaign team. He also worked for Biden, Obama, and Clinton teams. So I'm blessed to have him on staff. Yeah.
I'm gonna get real.
Yeah.
And who
I'm
else
gonna
is
have
it?
you introduce the rest of the team.
Sure.
Because I want
There's a
to.
second
And
line.
you can do a better job of introducing yourself too.
Well, good morning, everybody. Didn't expect to be speaking, so hopefully my less than 4 hours of sleep, heavily caffeinated coffee voice sounds all right.
You were at the Royals game and they won.
Yes, I was at the Royals game because, as we all know, sometimes life gets a little hectic and we need to take pauses from that life from time to time. And what better pause than to go enjoy a baseball game? And especially last night's game, what a phenomenal finish. And it was fireworks night. So, yeah.
Two for.
But I want to introduce, like Sandy was mentioning, the rest of our team that's here in the room. We have Will Harkleroad. You want to wave your hand and say hello. And then we also have our newest member of our team, Grace. Hold on. Moscone. Yes. But yes, we are part of Sandy's ground team. And as I'm sure you all can imagine, being part of that ground team means we go everywhere, all the time, come hell or high water, forgive the French. But this has been a phenomenal experience, and being able to talk to individuals such as yourselves, being able to talk about what's important to individuals such as yourselves and why it matters and why we're doing this is exactly why we're here. Because as Sandy mentioned, we all have things that we could be doing, but democracy is important, this country is important, and what we're trying to accomplish and will accomplish is to send Roger Marshall back to Florida.
And what Justin didn't say, Will leads DOCO Young Domes? Yes.
And is on the ballot in precinct number 10
Yes, he
to be
is.
a precinct committee person.
Yes. And then Grace is in high school still and has joined the team. And I just love this because when I was 16, I handwrote things for Gary Blumenthal when he was running for state legislature. So I appreciate all, and I love Next Gen getting engaged, right? That's what we need. We need people to get excited, understand that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, you have a great team, and I appreciate
I do. Thank you.
as you bring in everybody here. What other questions do we have for Sandy today?
Yes.
Are you going to Western Kansas? Are you engaging people that are?
We've been everywhere, virtually. And I can't say that. There's 105 counties. There are some counties I have not gotten to. I've gotten to 70 of them. But we've gone the whole I-70 corridor. We were down in Garden City and Dodge, and we went down southeast. And then, of course, the central areas. We've hit a lot of the counties and a lot of this. And it's not just, I'm not counting ones that we've driven through. I'm talking about actual events where I've had an opportunity to engage with people. But whether it's at a coffee shop in Independence, Kansas, you know, where you were talking to people, and I mean, I was just so enthralled that so many people would come out and engage, and what questions they had. I mean, that's what warms my heart. I get energy from people and trying to help optimize whatever the situation is. So yes, my intent is to be everywhere. I know that I'm from the Northeast part, but Kansas is beautiful to me. Our vacations, we're driving to Colorado often, or going to a national park somewhere. So I just love the hills and undulating wheat. I'm waiting for the fall where you see the wheat just going. It warms my heart. Questions? Yes?
So, let me ask you, hypothetically, if you were elected senator, what would be the first steps you would take to mitigate the damage? Oh, wait a minute, that could preface almost everything that Orange Julius has done, but, in specific to the Department of Education, because they have decimated the programs of education for our children and young adults across this country.
And I'm a proud product of public schools, right? And I was a Kansas State scholar, and you know, I wouldn't be where I am without the public education that I got a foundation for. So we need to make sure that the Department of Education is restored to the cabinet level. We need to restore the special ed funding, but we need to look at it holistically, and we need to make sure that vouchers are just not a thing, right? Because that is just a shell game with money, especially in the rural areas, right? Because they don't even have private schools, so you're just taking their tax money and sending it off to the cities. But we 100% need to do that, but I think from the perspective too, education is just, like I say, we have to, I'm sorry, sometimes my mind goes faster than my mouth. Make sure that there are loan repayment programs for secondary education so people can actually get things. Because when I went to grad school, my company paid for it. And that's why I chose to go to business school rather than law school. But those types of things where you have programs in place, but I think you need to look at it overarchingly too from an economics perspective, right? So when we look at like the premium tax for healthcare insurance is really important. So reversing those ACA premium, or restoring rather, those ACA premium tax credits, so more people are insured will help everyone across the board. You know, everything we can do from lowering cost perspective will help with education, will help with everything else that we're doing to restore the economy to where it needs to be right now. More, you know, increasing housing supplies on both the low income and medium income. I mean, I just went through buying a home not in the low and medium income because I'm not there at this point, and it was heinous because there's just no supply. You know, you need to do that, and then you also need to put some programs in place. So it's supply and demand, right? So from a demand perspective, you need to make it so people can actually afford housing. So first-time home buyers, we need to have better programs in place so next gen can actually, because the age of the average first-time home buyer is in the 40s now. And we need to change that, right? Sir?
What do you do about protecting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid?
Yeah, excellent question. So let's start with Social Security. I would remove the cap on, because I mean, people at higher wages, I want to say it's like 160, 175,000. Anything over that, you don't pay that extra 1.65%. But so for instance, a doctor gets a break, the nurse does not. You know, if you look at it in real terms. So that should be removed, but you also need to look at it from, that's only on wage income, and we need to look at other forms of income and say, how can we shore this up? That needs to be looked at holistically, and then what they invest in to shore that program up, because we can do it. This isn't hard. Billionaires have to pay their fair share, right? And we need to be able to make sure that everyone is paying their fair share. So across that. Now Medicare, and like I say, if we move to a Medicare for all type system, we'll have a better financial footing around that. And Medicaid, of course, we restore the funding for Medicaid, because the people that are getting that are our most vulnerable, our seniors, our youth, and our special needs folks, right? Yes, ma'am.
I mean, if we had Medicare for all, then we really wouldn't need Medicaid separately anymore, would we, if everybody is already
I don't
covered?
think we would, but again, it depends, because, yeah, I'd have to look at that, to be fair. That is an excellent point. I think Medicare for all would cover everything, and that we've been parceling it out. The difficulty is, I said before, around looking at the ACA, we're gonna need to keep that in place for it, because you can't turn this stuff on a dime. And then we're gonna obviously need a better majority in the Congress to be able to get this through, and of course, a Democratic president, right? So other than that, and then we have to actually get this stuff put into place. Other than that, it's all good. And then, you know, this is coming from someone who's actually developed programs and implemented them. That's a whole different ballgame than people that just sell it, right? So we're gonna have to look at some of that stuff. And then also the other thing that's just coming from financial services world, and I worked in insurance as well, the fact that medical insurance is for profit is just inappropriate at best. And that needs to get evolved over. I'm not trying to take business away from things, but the way it works right now, and mind you, they make the most of their money on investments, right? It's not on, their margins on premiums are pretty low, but what they're using now, they're using AI to deny claims, to deny care that people's doctors have recommended, right? And then people have to fight, and then doctors are having problems. They have to fight and be, you know, on behalf of their patients. So it's becoming really what is efficient from an insurance perspective, it's becoming a huge inefficiency from the system overall, right?
Sandy?
Yeah.
Can I tell you something about the cap on Social Security?
Yeah.
The first time I heard about it, I was a little kid, and my dad's youngest brother, my dad's 1 in 10. And these people grew up, they electrified the farm in 1968, 2 years after my dad graduated, right? And he's one of the middle kids. The youngest kid, my grandma was almost 50 and my grandfather was almost 70. Surprise baby, right? So they were on Social Security when Uncle Donald was even born. And because of that, Uncle Donald got a little Social Security check. And apparently, the way it used to be, as long as you stayed in school at least half time, you kept getting a little Social Security money. Uncle Donald went to KU for a long time and got a master's degree, and then he worked for the Golf Course Superintendent Association, right, whose headquarters is here in Lawrence. He made so much money the first time in his life, more than the whole family had ever really seen, and he's like, I don't understand about Social Security. They stopped taking my money 4 months into the year. And everybody's like, how much are you making, right? And he's like, but he has everything because of the Social Security program growing up with rather elderly parents, right? And he just couldn't believe that Social Security wouldn't allow him to even write more money to Social Security. He tried because he feels like he owes everything he has to that program, right? And I know, like, I feel very strongly about Meals on Wheels because that's let two of my grandparents stay in their homes 10 and 12 years longer. Do you drive for them, Linda? And you're on their board? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Every year when I do my state taxes, that is the one thing that I donate money to because those kind of programs keep seniors in their homes, and we have the right to age with dignity, and we all deserve that.
100%, and the aging piece, having had older parents growing up, and I was blessed that dad died at 90 and mom died at 95. So you got to see a lot of this, and it is not just the meals, it's the company that they get from that, because they are so isolated in some of those environments, especially in rural, but in cities as well. You can be isolated in New York City without the right contacts. Other questions? Yes?
You didn't mention the environment.
Like I say, global warming is real, science is real. We need to make sure people understand science is real. The environment, we've got to do so much, or everything else we are doing will not matter because the planet will not be here. Like I say, a lot of my vacations growing up were to national parks and state parks, and the beauty of this country and the environment. My dad worked for the gas utility, right? Needing natural gas and putting commercial kitchens in hospitals, schools, obviously restaurants. But it's that kind of thing, and having clean energy to be able to maintain a good environmental impact, and having programs that actually keep this world great for next gen. I mean, I am really concerned about what's been happening. And when we get out of some of the global treaties that we need to be in to make sure that everybody, we need to be a leader again. And what they've been doing is just, again, not leading. What they've been doing is basically extorting different countries to pay money.
The planet will be here, people will not.
Exactly. Excellent point. The planet as we know it is what I mean. Yeah, but good point. Good point. Sir in the back.
Seeing you're following up on Marcy's comment and saying that Kansas contributes a good bit to pollution through farming. And I wonder how a senator from Kansas can address that issue and still get support.
I think what you need to do, like anything, and how I've done things throughout my career, you have advisory boards by area. So like I say, my 5 key areas: healthcare, education, agriculture, veterans, and the economy. You have a group of people that are experts within it. So you get some farmers, from the big farms like out in Colby, Lawn From, who has 60,000 acres, to some of my cousins who have 2, or whatever. It's like you get some of these perspectives and you say, okay, what are you doing now with respect to fertilizer in the water, and how are you doing things that are making it cleaner, and you're not contributing to the problem, but again, contributing to the solution. And what are the costs? What can we do now to mitigate the situation? What can we do to make it better going forward? And what are the costs, and how can we implement that without doing things? One of the things that I usually bring up too is what we have benefited from seeing with this Iran war and obviously the Ukrainian war is that warfare is different in 2026 than it has been in the past, right? Drone technology is really mission critical, but what's good about drone technology is it costs a hell of a lot less than some of the traditional technologies. And I'm not saying we need to get rid of all of them, but I think we can optimize against some of that and leverage some of that funding that the DoD is way overfunded into other areas such as agriculture and the economic and environmental impacts within that. Does that make sense?
Me,
Okay. It makes sense. My head, I'm thinking in a spreadsheet.
Sandy?
Yeah.
In the bill, Biden's team did a terrible job telling us about the cool stuff that Biden did accomplish, I feel like, right? Because under that Build Back Better bill, if you will, that Biden and his team got passed towards the beginning of his administration, there were stuff in there like money to help farmers build different stuff so that their wastewater didn't XYZ, and all those programs got cut under the big bad bill.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point out that when Democrats were in the White House, we were doing, farming environmental as it comes together, right? Because if you really love that land, you don't want to poison it. You want to keep it for your family and to be able to grow food, right? And so there were lots of programs through the USDA and USAID that helped Kansas farmers address pollution stuff. And again, it all got cut. But that means we can do it again.
Yeah, and USAID needs to be re-implemented, even though they created a different program, but I think, we need that for both the markets and for the economics coming in from it, and feeding the freaking world, right? Like, all these children are starving because they pulled out that rug. But excellent point on that. And I mean, that was an actual infrastructure bill as opposed to a promised one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to how Democrats message and how they do it. And I'm not saying slap your name on everything, but there has to be a way where we can get that point across in a more meaningful way, right? Other questions?
Can you talk about international politics, thinking about Gaza and Palestine and
Sure.
Cuba and places that
Well, there's one thing about diplomacy should be number one and foremost. It shouldn't be us just going in and taking Greenland, or things like that. But in terms of, let's just go through the Gaza-Israel thing. I am always a supporter of Israel. Netanyahu, on the other hand, I believe is as corrupt, if not more so than Trump. And I believe he's just prolonging the war to keep his own butt out of jail. Okay, so I have problems with anyone who subordinates their people's needs for their own benefit, and I think that's what's going on there. I think what happened with the initial attack, of course, was heinous. I think the appropriate response should have been done in a measured way, as you would typically do in any kind of a conflict. I think when you target non-military populations, including women and children, and elderly, I think that's inappropriate. And I think when you starve people, also inappropriate, and violating international law, right? So I think there's some of that going on. In terms of Cuba, I think, again, I'm not a global, I'm not someone that would go and take things, and Trump doing is inappropriate at best. Can we help them with economic development? Yes, I think we can, and I think it's long past overdue. I don't know some of the nuances of that as much as I would like. Again, I would rely on people that are actually immersed in the culture and needs of that area. But when you look at international, to me, it's all one big economy, and it's also one big, environment. And so you look at things holistically across that, and you make the right strategic alliances to move things forward. And it shouldn't be an N of one, meaning just the United States, being the queen on the chessboard, right? We should be working with our partners to actually, implement appropriate international policy. And I think we've stepped away from that, obviously under Trump 1, but Trump 2 even more so, because we understand the undue influence that dictators have had on this regime.
Sandy's running for office and being very polite, but look, 1 million children have starved to death since USAID is gone.
Yeah.
And, you know, the giant genocide has been committed. Cuba is entirely in the dark. I heard this an hour-long interview recently with people that live there, and they're just in the dark. If they have water, it's 1 day a week, and it is us, the United States, that is doing those blockades, and why they have no energy, why they have no lights, why they are short on food, why they have no water. It is us doing that to Cuba.
I think it's Rubio.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, and now Rubio is also like in charge of
Cuba.
And El Salvador?
Yeah,
Venezuela.
I don't even
What is
know
it?
which one's next.
It's Venezuela. You're right. Thank you. Yeah.
Venezuela. Well, Venezuela.
What
yeah.
is happening, right?
Go ahead with the follow-up.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
We can't choose to support Israel and not support Palestine.
Oh, 100%. I think there should be, get me straight. I think there should be a two-state solution. But it's a very complex problem, right? I was in New York when Biden was running, and they did the three presidents thing that Stephen Colbert emceed, and you had Biden, Clinton, and Obama on the stage. And they had some Palestinian protesters infiltrate the audience and kept interrupting. And, it went on a little bit, and then Obama was masterful, as always, I'm just saying. And he's like, this is a very complex problem. You have to be able to listen as much as you talk. And how you go about this, because we have to find a solution that works for the region and for the people. Now, the difficulty is you've got such ingrained hatred of one another. I don't know if a two-state solution that borders each other is going to work. It's those kinds of, if you think about it logically around what can happen. But I agree, I think both need to be supported, and you need to be able to understand that Hamas, what they did was horrific, but they were also being funded by Netanyahu through another back channel, right? So when you look at that, you can't just say that was Palestinian when it was Hamas, when it's being funded. It's a lot more complex than people are willing to do with, the people that are protesting out on the street corner, I would say.
I just got the 2-minute warning from your campaign manager.
Oh yeah, we do have to get to Bradley County picnic.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to go? This has been so great. Any last question before I wrap? If you do have anything else, we've got some little cards here on there, or reach out on my website. There's, or you can do SSN, so Sandy Spidel Neumann, SSN. That's how I signed all my work emails. SSN is just so much easier. Yes, sir.
A former chairman of this party, this county party, has made the point to me, we don't need one-time candidates. We need people who are going to run more than once. I hope you'll consider, I think we understand where the Senate race is going, not that all of us are happy about it.
I'm a realist.
You've been in business, you understand. I hope this isn't your only, I guess I'm saying, please get involved and let's find you another spot because I think we need you.
I'll definitely be involved, and what I intend to do, which Hamilton does not know yet. Okay, I'm reaching out to his campaign because he's going to win. I'm just being realist.
And I really hope you stay in Kansas City.
And Moran, I'll stay engaged. Moran's seat's likely going to be open. We are hearing rumblings that he is not gonna run. But even if he did run, but there are also some fabulous candidates across the board. And I'm just being realist. I am going to be engaged and drive results. I just don't know from what seat. Yeah. But thank you, I appreciate that. I really do, because this isn't easy. This was much more difficult, not just the money aspect, but the work itself, and because and I'm 24/7 anyway until about 9 p.m. Then I'm, but yeah. So I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much. I really thank you, Sandy.